The darkness rises to those who risk everything for love. An old Ilurian nursery rhyme. Chilly, killy clocks lock souls inside a box. It lives to scare and catch us all, then trap us in the rocks. The Nahual. The monster slithered from Malandre's temple out to the dimly lit town. All the people along its grim path suddenly gasped and fell down. 2 tentacles carried an obsidian box where it locked away all their souls. Capturing everyone it encountered was the greatest of its dreadful goals. It couldn't imagine its own vast powers, yet it felt a strong urge to head north to the dying land of Gamash Gidaram, destroyed when dark magic surged forth. 4,000 years past it had been a great kingdom, shattered by mystical war. Now nothing could live in that realm very long. Dying creatures crawled there evermore. When they felt too much pain from old age or disease, they sought for an end to their lives. They crept to a place that would finish them off with dark power that ever survives. But the Nahual knew it could feed on this magic to create a new land all its own, starting at the center of Iluria's disk, spreading out across every zone. Lauren and Tina. Lauren and Tina rode Fluffy all night, far west toward the Temple of Dreams. He held her close and sang to her softly his deepest longings and wildest schemes. Then she tried to tell him the place she had dwelt from her previous life until now, yet there were no words she could possibly speak that could such cosmic beauty endow. All she could do was tell him her love, she would never leave him again, but she could not bear to speak of the darkness she knew must be moving by then. She leaned back against him and felt his heart beating as they rushed through the warm night air. She looked forward to seeing the temple again, with all her old friends living there. They flew under Iluria's mighty stone arches as the green sun rose gloriously. Vast forests covered the tops of those rocks, whence huge waterfalls plunged thunderously. Tina had not seen that region before, so her spirit was filled with great joy. Her afterlife memories were fading away, just delighted to be with this boy. At sunset they camped on the westernmost edge of Iluria's deepest pine forest. Lauren sang all his sweetest songs while gentle creatures crooned a soft chorus. Yet Tina felt restless and deep inside, for she sensed a vast darkness was moving. Even with renewed youth and Lauren's great love, she knew life would not be improving. The return home. Next morning they reached the Temple of Dreams. Lauren showed them his future wife. Philip and Elisa were delighted to see her, but Garsha's anger was rife. He first hugged Tina with love and said, "I am happy to see you alive." He then turned to Lauren with a scowl and muttered, "If you had seen Luceria, you would have died. You cannot imagine what she had become or the powers you've toyed with here. She was like a limitless cosmic meat grinder, a bone crusher of infinite fear. The 3 of us recall but the slightest glimpse. That was more than enough forever. The first Tina lived without that pain. Keeping her safe must be your greatest endeavor. Luceria's magic still lurks somewhere, waiting to take some dark form. It has become known as the Nahual and is fiercer than the blackest storm. If you truly love Tina, you must make certain that this evil force never finds her. Were it to actually enter our world, it would bring about total disaster." Yet Lauren worried not about Garsha's words, and married Tina that very same day. There were many dream lords again at that time, more brilliant than ever, they'd say. Garsha's son Aldean performed the ceremony, for he was the current dream ruler. It was the happiest day since the end of Luceria, and no heart's joy could ever be truer. Gamash Gidaram. The Nahual came to a blasted desert, covered with dark gray sand. Scattered about were sharp stone crags that would cut through a hoof or a hand. Death and loneliness hung in the air. that any human or brownie could feel, but the Nahual felt only vast dark power, and its senses started to reel. Mythical monsters flashed through its thoughts from the minds of the souls it stole. It raised 4 tentacles out toward the sand, and these ghastly beasts became whole. Countless gray demons rose everywhere, and were fluttering all around. Beyond them rose many gigantic death dragons who bellowed with a terrible sound. The Nahual knew they would need to eat, and fire would be their best food. So it raised a colossal obsidian fortress that would soon be a home to this brood. In its bowels stood a mighty fiery furnace where they would all gather about. The demons would feed and shovel fire to the dragons, then all the beasts would rush out. For in the black fortress's very heart was a giant obsidian box, where the monsters would lock away myriad souls till they withered away in the rocks. Yet the Nahual sensed a small part of its powers now dwelt in a land far west. It told 2 demons where they must search to bring this back to join with the rest. Meanwhile it decided to travel about and explore its newly found region. It flew to the sky and traveled north, surrounded by a vast demon legion. Demons come. Lauren and Tina dwelt several long weeks in the lovely and flowering temple grounds. Their joy was beyond their wildest dreams, and their love transcended all bounds. Tina suspected that she was pregnant. She told Lauren, and his joy was complete. Then he knew that bringing her back was right, and could not imagine defeat. But 2 winged gray demons arrived one day and grabbed Tina by the arms. Lauren took a sword and fiercely attacked to keep them from doing her harm. Yet his strongest thrust could barely scratch them, and one grabbed him by his head, threw him in a corner like a sack of grain, while Tina screamed and feared he was dead. The demons dragged her away by the wrists and flew her rapidly through the air, 400 miles straight to Gamash Gidaram, where countless monsters lived in despair. At its center stood the mighty obsidian fortress, more than a mile high, while 10 miles outward in every direction countless death dragons gave their cry. These colossal beasts formed a perimeter facing out toward the dying land, continuously blasting the ground before them, forming a lava pit out of the sand. The demons carried Tina to the highest peak of the Black Fortress's tallest tower, to await the return of the Nahual as it began Iluria's final hour.